Hey everyone, welcome. Mel K's back on the show today. So just before we
Yeah.
begin, subscribe to my BitChute channel and to the Telegram channel that I've recently made as well, and also to Mel K. The links are below in the description.
Yep.
What's been happening, Mel? What's the updates? You got any intel to give us today?
Well, what I do have is some things that I find very interesting. Mainly that what happened in Myanmar, I feel is something people might want to pay attention to. I don't know if you talked about it yet, but basically their election was hijacked exactly by the same people in the exact same way that ours was. And what happened there is publicly the military went in and took over, exercised their constitutional rights. The military took over for 1 year. A lot of us believe that that is what's happening here right now, but it went exactly as planned publicly, and the exact same pushback with their controlled media saying that there was no election fraud, it was false, all of that. But in front of the public, unlike what I think is happening here, the military went in, arrested the president, this woman who's a very nefarious past, I'll tell you in a minute, and also arrested the vice president, and they've fully taken over. It's exactly what a lot of us believe we are experiencing right now, but we're not privy to it yet. And the reason that it's so interesting is that now it's leading back to Smartmatic and Dominion. And they claim, the military in Myanmar claim, which used to be Burma, claims that it was that 8 million votes were tampered with. And if you think about, we're 300 million, they claim 30 million votes. They're 60 million, they claim 8 million votes, and that it was the same exact people. And what's more interesting about this situation with what you and I know is coming ahead is it turns out that this area in the Southeast Asia is called the Golden Triangle to the CIA. And I think we've learned enough about the CIA to know that the CIA is not working for us. They're working for the one world government. And basically, this is a huge trafficking destination. And the other thing is that the Clinton Global Initiative, Soros, and Obama put a lot of money into this small country that now their elections were hijacked almost exactly like ours were for I believe, the same intended purpose, which is to protect the people there from the crimes that they've already committed. And I'm seeing this happening through, the Clinton Global Initiative. I did a whole show a long time ago about all the islands that they've infiltrated with their central bank, and then they make everyone debt slaves, and then they go in and they do the infrastructure. And it just so happens to be along the shipping route that all of the human trafficking, child trafficking, and drug trafficking has been going. And I believe Trump shut down numerous ports. The military back channels showed all the places that were the biggest ports, and then said closed, closed, closed. So it looks to me like the same people that are behind the CIA and other Five Eyes and black hats did the same thing there to protect the same people and to keep their illegal trade going without being detected. And it's just really the similarities between what's going on there and what's going on here cannot be denied. And, again, our media is not covering it. And it's literally exactly what we believe happened in our election. So I think that that's pretty crazy stuff. And then all these pictures surfaced with the fraudulent president there, with Hillary Clinton, with Obama, with Soros's son. And this has been going on a long time. So I think that the way the military is handling it there might be a sign for us to look at, the possibility of how it's going to be or has been or will be handled here. So I'm finding that really an interesting story that isn't really being covered, but should be, because the Smartmatic connection and the Dominion connection and then the trafficking connection, it's just too obvious that we're looking at, I believe, a mirror. Like they've been exposing everything really, really fast. So I really think people that are watching this and that follow us need to check that out for themselves. It's really shocking how similar it is and the people involved.
Well, that's why the Mel K show and the Nicolas Veniamin show are covering it instead. If they're not going to cover it, we'll
Right.
cover it, right?
Right on. We're the news now, me and you.
So the other thing I wanted to ask you about Burmese was, now, just to confirm that there's been many arrests that were issued by the military of corrupt politicians for election misconduct. I don't want to say the other word because YouTube doesn't like it. So I know. So um when, just out of curiosity, when did Burmese have their last election?
I believe it was around the time of ours, November, I think 8th. I'd have to check it, but in November. Same, very, very similar to what happened here. And it turns out that the Clinton Global Initiative, which I tend to think is a very nefarious group, they actually put in a lot of money to set up their election systems, oddly enough. And, and then when you connect it with the root and the trafficking, and, it's really also disturbing that, on top of that, because I think a lot of this is much more connected to the original, everything that we saw originally 3.5 years ago from the Epstein and the trafficking and the human trafficking situation, child trafficking, but also drug trafficking, all of that. And the interesting part about this is it's along the route that we were pointed to a long time ago, going from Beijing all the way through the Caribbean out to Long Beach Port in California. And it's not deniable. And then Biden also turned around the whole Taliban deal to make us stay in Afghanistan, which there's no reason to. It's an endless war. It's really about drugs, heroin. And it turns out that the problem also in Myanmar is a heroin, is that they grow and ship a lot of poppy and heroin and other drugs, methamphetamine, all of that. And the fact that that's a drug hub, and so is Afghanistan, and that the CIA is involved in both of this, really, really leads you to believe that they are trying to reopen the shipping route for their CIA black ops and money operations that have been going on for decades behind our backs with our taxpayer money. And Trump shut them all down. And it appears one after another, they're trying to seize these places and reopen up their shipping routes to keep their criminal activity going. Like I've always said, this had nothing to do with an election. And I still believe our election is a sting. But at this point, there's too many coincidences between the trafficking route and the trafficking and where these people are, really invested and are, restarting wars. Why did we go back into Syria the minute Biden got in there? None of this makes sense unless it's the military industrial complex, the globalists, the CIA, and the black money, black ops that they've been running all these years in our faces. It's not that none of this stuff is out there. It's just every time that people go and testify about this stuff. Oddly enough, I found in 1988, they had a bunch of CIA officers flip and testify that they were flying drugs from Myanmar, Burma, to the US for the CIA. It was a whole testimony. Actually, John Kerry was presiding over the interrogations and stuff. And guess who knocked everything down? Bill Barr, who was just our AG that left. So it's like, so they've been connected in doing this drug trade basically since Vietnam, which makes you question what happened with Vietnam. What was it about? And then again, JFK tried to stop all of that. And here we are again, all these years later, the same players, the same people, the same routes. And it can't be a coincidence.
So, the military that went to arrest in Burmese, do you think that that particular military that issued those arrests for election misconduct, do you believe that that military have any relation or connection with the military in the States? Are they working together, do you believe?
Well, I just put together dots, but what they're doing is exactly, they're triggering exactly what's in their constitution that a lot of us believe is triggered from our election fraud. And they used other means, but the military does seem to have the support of the people. And, and this woman that's been running the country has been lauded all over the world, except for not in her country. And so it looks like the military is doing it by the book, and kind of, if I would say, this is how it should happen. And I believe maybe it's the first one to fall because I think that the international alliance is sharing information because I just think they must have gone around, and I believe we'll start seeing other countries come out and take a look at, was Dominion and Smartmatic involved there? Was the CIA involved there? Are these players involved there? Because many people around the world, even if America is hiding it and lying about it, have seen the report from DNI Radcliffe. They know who's involved. That's why every other country, since I read the foreign papers, it's the only place I have to read the Russian and the Ukrainian and the Chinese papers for American citizens because I'm not getting real information from the American media. And when you read them, you can see that all these countries know what happened here. They know that it's illegitimate. That most people, even Putin and Xi and Modi, all these world leaders know what happened here. But there's still nobody in our media will report it. They're all caught up in the big lie. And of course, they say we are the big lie. But hey, so my thinking is that it's an alliance operation, and we'll see one after another, Dominion, Smartmatic, connect a lot of countries and expose the fraud. I think they should look into Canada immediately. I'm sure they are. That there's too many people in Canada that did not believe Trudeau had any chance after all he's done there and how he's betrayed his people. And then even in your elections, though yours have another level because of the monarch and the Privy Council and the Pilgrim, there's like a different level there that is, than everywhere else, which is why I think probably the UK is going to be exposed last. But I think they're going to go around from country to country and connect the dots because this is a massive, apparently this has been going on with Smartmatic and Dominion and all their minions and the Soros people for 20 years. They say that even the second Obama election used it. Hillary Clinton used it, and she just underestimated how many votes Trump would get. They caught them in 2018 because they wrote the report. So, I just think maybe we're seeing light being shined on other countries that had the same thing happen so that we watch how they handle it. There was no unrest after the military came in, and anything that's saying that, it's not what I'm seeing. What I'm seeing is that it's the media there, same as here, that's covering it up and lying and gaslighting. But the people are in support of it. Just like we were talking last week, my thoughts and what I heard is that the military will wait until for as little disruption as possible in our streets and everything, till they feel like at least 70% of America supports them intervening. And every day that Joe Biden's in there and puts another dangerous and irresponsible executive order without we the people's consent into pseudo law, people are waking up. People are waking up on all sides. People are starting to look at why they never even looked into Biden, why Hunter's laptop was never exposed, how Hunter Biden is still free, all the anomalies that make no sense. And I think people are starting, it's us that have been saying it all along, but I'm starting to be more bold when I go out and interact with people when we're allowed to just say, this is what I think. And it's starting to happen that people say, oh my God, me too. But they've been too scared to say it, or the masks and the distancing, they've kept us from talking to each other. So I think that a lot of what's going on is really red pill after red pill. What happened with Wall Street, giant red pill. And then our media, is calling the guys bad enough. They set up what happened on January 6th. They have plenty of evidence. It was pre-planned. It was set up. It was another false flag to go after Trump supporters, to get rid of all. And again, I believe that a lot of their hatred of Trump and the Trump supporters is really about protecting themselves from all the crimes that they've committed. And the pace at which they're doing stuff is very disturbing. So in my opinion, I do think international alliance is in full control. And we're going to watch the chips fall, and we just have to pay attention to the coincidences. Because, I was saying the other day to people, I don't know if you came up with this, but you probably did, that on the board, it always said, do you want to play a game? Game theory. This is not a game. Game over. And then it just so happens Wall Street's veil is lifted with a company called GameStop that has a logo that looks like Donald Trump.
Yep, I saw that.
You can't make it up. You can't
No,
make it up.
no, it's another
So,
anomaly. You say about the military. We understand that Donald Trump has got other countries involved with the QFS, or if you like, peace deals and Jassara, if you know what I mean.
I do.
And apparently, it's been like over 209 countries that have now
Right.
signed into this. Now, do you think that it's the case that those governments who have signed into the QFS, into the New Free World or Jassara, are also taking the same steps as as President Trump, in respect to how the military are intervening now for their own governments to make these arrests? Do you think all the military in the world now are sort of in all the independent militaries around the world, because of the agreement, that they're
Right.
all taking the same action as the US?
Well, in my opinion, and my research and what I've done for 3 years, absolutely, because what we do know, at least me and you, is that there was gold, a lot of gold seized, not just from Switzerland and the Vatican, but all over, that was stolen. I hope they got the Libyan gold, because that's all Libya was about. But and it's been distributed, and these people are signing on for this because this is the future. And I believe that Trump did trigger it. And yes, 209 countries are behind it. It has a lot to do with the Abrahamic Accords, which Biden's trying to undo. And the system is so much better and so much more fair and transparent and all of that, yeah, I believe that there's an alliance. But like we've always said, there's two factions of the military in every country. One is the military industrial complex that makes money off of war and suffering and all of that. And one, I believe, is functioning and running out of the Pentagon right now and coordinating with the FSB and Russia and a lot of there's two teams on every side, like in the Mossad versus the IDF. And, in every country we have, different factions. But yeah, I believe that the alliance, and I believe that alliance was from my research and what I've done. This is just my belief that Trump at the G7 in 2017, when he invited Putin and everyone went nuts, that they all sat down. Trump presented all the evidence, I think, against the Clintons and the international trafficking and what was going on with the CCP and the UN, and that they have all been working together this whole time. And as you and I have talked about, people are still not recognizing or talking about, obviously not in the media, that Pompeo set up a modern Nuremberg, Nuremberg 2.0, basically, with all these countries for crimes against humanity. And I believe it's going to be exposed that the biggest crime against humanity was the COVID, and that it was not only do we know it was planned, but it was used I think it's becoming more and more clear that our countries have been totally gaslit, and the damage that has been done cannot be reversed, especially the psychological and the deaths and all of this. But it's straight out of their playbook. And I believe, every country that suffered from this is going to want to see justice on the same level as we are and you are, because they can't deny that. Oh, I saw yesterday that in the UK, there's barely any flu, just like here, which is unprecedented. Apparently, last year, there were 14,000 plus cases of the flu in that 1 week. This year, same week, 23 cases.
Well,
it's just
well,
crazy.
I'll tell you what, I think the best thing about the pandemic was that nobody's had a flu or a cold in 2020, which is really, really good news,
I know. And the good news is it was such a bad pandemic that there's no higher death count than there was last year or the year before or the year before that.
Yeah. So we're definitely conspiracy theories. I mean,
I know. What nuts. What nuts. We just look at facts and then who knows?
You know what I mean?
It's completely out of control. Yeah. Well, also, you guys are still in super lockdown, but something's going on because, they're still bringing troops into DC. And I've told people many times, the media and the Democrats and liberals and rhinos, they're spinning it like the troops are there to protect the government. I don't think that that's true at all. And, when we were there and I talked to some of the National Guard, they said that their job is there to protect we, the people, and the Constitution from the government. So, I still believe that that's their duty and that's their right and that's their oath. And that's what's going on in all of our countries, but I just think this Myanmar is a small piece. But I believe that it connects all of the pieces, because we both know, whether people want to believe it or not, they will be shown. Trump really got into this because of the evidence he was shown about the international child trafficking, human trafficking, and adrenochrome trade that was being led by the One World Order, UN, and CCP, and you know, this none of this evidence is really public yet. That's why we're so far ahead of it, that when it starts to trickle out, but you know, new documents were released in the Epstein, Ghislaine Maxwell case that people really haven't seen yet. I just started going through them, but these are not. We've only been seeing the Ghislaine Maxwell, Virginia Roberts case. I'm a big fan of Virginia Roberts, and all of that happened in Palm Beach. And Donald Trump really did turn in Epstein, which a lot of people deny, but it's true. And the cases now aren't that. These are kids that were trafficked that are now adults that are coming out, and their stories are horrific, and they line up with everything that we've learned about that island, and they can't stop them now. And they got another big fish, Leon Black, in the trade, and I bet next is going to be Les Wexner, and it's all going to connect, because Epstein was actually very involved with that Wuhan lab too, and the transhumanism, which is part of the Moderna Pfizer vaccine, that they even admit on the Moderna website. And yet everyone says it's conspiracy theory. No, it's not. It says on the Moderna website that their vaccine is an operating system, that it's not a typical vaccine, that it is meant to, it's just like Bill Gates created this. He created the virus for the computer, then he created the antivirus, and you had to buy the antivirus to get rid of the virus he put into the computers that he already sold us. It's basically the same thing. And people won't say that. And, you know, but an interesting thing about the vaccines, because I know they're being really aggressive in the UK, China banned the vaccines from Moderna and Pfizer. Why would China do that? And yet the UK, even more, it appears, than anywhere else, is pushing it so hard. I mean, I guess the UK has the most to lose, because they have the most, because the people are really being tortured over there. I don't know what they're doing in the UK, but it is anti-freedom, anti for the people, and the whole world's looking at it, not, I believe, very confused.
So when did China actually ban the vaccine from Moderna?
Last week.
Last week. And why do you think that's the case? Do you think there's good guys?
I think they know. I think they know that there's nanoparticles in there. This I just found out last week, oddly enough. The CDC is a private organization that is run by Big Pharma with lots of money from Bill Gates and all of his vaccine pirates. A vaccine is a huge, huge industry, billions of dollars, you know. And I didn't realize the CDC is not a government organization at all. Just like the Fed is private, so is the CDC. The Fed is private and works for the banking cabal. The CDC is private, works for Big Pharma, which of course is controlled by the same banking cabal. And I believe that what's going on in China is not being reported properly or honestly, because I believe that there's a split in the factions in China too, that the CCP, which is obviously part of the One World Order, and there's a bloodline family there, Li, is being challenged by, I think Xi is playing both sides, but we don't know that yet. Mm-hmm. But there's definitely a freedom movement in China that is fighting back, probably a military faction that's fighting back with the alliance. And I think that they're aware that there's these nanoparticles. And don't forget, a lot of people have speculated that what really happened in Wuhan is that they tried the 5G, and that's really what we were seeing with people that were already injected with this. So I just think that it's a big sign that China won't allow those two vaccines in their country, and people really need to pay attention. It's just been disturbing how South Africa and the UK have been, it seems, unconscionably locked down beyond comprehension, and then they're pushing the vaccine so hard there, and it doesn't make that much sense why those two countries are the ones that, you know, really their governments are really pushing it.
But I'd imagine that China would want that, knowing, you know, being that it's the blueprint of the New World Order.
Right. Well, that's what I'm saying. There's something going on in China that we're not being told too. Don't forget also, there's war games going on between China and Taiwan and the US. And some people say that they simulated an attack on the U.S. ships that are protecting Taiwan in the South China Sea. But other military people say no. China, the CCP, they're military, because that's not the Chinese people. That's their rogue regime that is, aligned with the globalists, that they actually tried to attack, and that the U.S. deflected it and weren't in danger at all because they caught it. But something's going on over there, and Myanmar is in that area too. So something is going on over there, and it's not being reported correctly to we the people in any of our countries. And I think it's going to be a big part of it. I do believe that there's a real effort going on to end the CCP by the same alliance. And we're just being told everything the opposite. And then, every day the Biden administration is adding more and more people that were involved during Bush and Obama in all these endless wars and these wars for profit. He's putting them all back in. I've warned for a long time about the Council of Foreign Relations and Atlantic Council and, these big tech oligarchs. Well, Biden's bringing them all back in. And it's just, he wants to restart the Iran deal, which would totally disrupt all of the Abrahamic Accords. And like you said, a lot of this is about the financial reset, because once we stop their money train, they're done. And that's also why I think they're trying to reopen all of the black ops and the drug and trafficking routes, because they're getting their money taken away from them. People still aren't paying attention to that Trump and Mnuchin seized the Fed and under the Treasury. And, and then this Janet Yellen, who used to run the Fed, which is a total fraud on we the people. Every central bank is in the world. Yellen used to run it, and now she's running the Treasury. But nobody's putting A and B together that, they're one and the same now. And, nobody's, of course, talking about the corporation of the United States in the real media. It's just so many people have to be in on the show for them to keep going, and nothing looks right. But so many people have to be involved that it has to be massive. And, I was talking to Alpa yesterday. I don't know. Did you ever see the hard copy drawing of the map, the Q map? Did you ever see it?
I have seen it. Yeah, I have.
Let me tell you something. This is my feeling about that. Okay. Whoever did that is the smartest human that ever lived on this planet. And everything has come true. So you can just get rid of the Q board, which again is not a cult, it's a board, and only 10 people can post on it. They can talk all they want about Akun, 8chan, 4chan. I never dealt in that. I only looked at the board, and I only looked at, and the original board was great because it broke down the players, the themes, the operations, resignations, indictments, and then the drops. And they kicked that map off, and nobody can find it. Most people don't even know where to go to see it. And they keep calling it a cult and terrorists and all this. It is so genius. Maybe you'll do it with us. Alpa wants to put it up on the screen and show people like how intricate it is with all the, the pointing and everything. This was planned in such a strategic, brilliant way on a piece of paper. And that is the map. Mm-hmm. And that map tells you everything that's going on. And the more that they push, you see it right now. I saw in the UK, in Germany, in Japan, they're the same media companies are putting out QAnon is terrorist, QAnon's a cult, QAnon. There is no QAnon. It's a Q board. It's a map. It's a board. And almost everything on there, if anyone bothered to look, has come true. And if there were any real journalists out there, other than us and our friends, if there were any out there, they would stop just writing fluff pieces that are to scare people and direct people to go look for themselves. If people look for themselves, they're going to find that a lot of it not only is true, but is really educational. There's so much history on that thing, even how they talked about the Titanic and the Fed and Epstein and the island and Soros, Rothschild. We wouldn't know any of that if we weren't given the crumbs to research. I don't see the threat of something that is giving people all around the world information for themselves to go research. They're not telling us to do anything. It's not that easy to read it. and it takes a lot of time and effort and energy, but the original map is real and it's brilliant, and nobody wasted their time doing that. That had to have been a group of strategic geniuses.
I agree.
So the more they talk about it, the more I'm like, okay, well, did one journalist ever see the real map? Not the website, not the page, because the real map, somebody made that, and it's literally mind-blowing genius. So, that's why the more they're pushing that it's like a cult or domestic terrorists, the more I just shake my head and think they're not even looking. Why not look? Yeah. Why not go look? No,
absolutely. Because it's a threat to them, because if it really didn't mean anything, then why don't they just, be quiet?
But right. Or actually report what's on it. What's on it.
All that. Yeah.
Well,
I want to go back and I want to ask you something about the flu jabs. I'd rather use the term flu jabs than the V word.
Right, I know.
It's okay.
Going on. It's so crazy. I know.
Go
ahead. Yeah, we have to be careful. You and I, they know our number.
So I know. So with the flu jabs, now there are some people saying to me, Nick, my mother or my grandmother or my partner, they're going to take the flu jab and they're not listening to me. When they go and take those flu jabs, Mel, can you please explain in your opinion or with the research that you've done and tell us what are they actually receiving and what are the hospitals actually giving out? And I'm asking also for you to tell us, including the UK.
Right. I think that there's several different vaccines. And like I said, the Moderna website says that their vaccine is not a vaccine in the traditional sense. It is an operating system once injected that takes over your immune system and your cells to deliver this, whatever they're putting in your body faster. I am guessing from what I've seen, Pfizer's is the same, but apparently the one that's being made in Russia is not the same, is an actual vaccine. So, but that vaccine, from what I've read, and this is just from my research, people need to do their own research, but the vaccine that's coming from Russia is apparently not that different than the flu vaccine, that only works for a year, but it seems like that one's not dangerous. Now, people will not accept the fact that they can put nanoparticles in your body. Why they won't accept that, I don't understand, because anyone that's gotten surgery in the last 10 years knows that they can put a camera inside your body that you don't even feel or see, that you swallow, and they can see all kinds of, so it's not impossible. And you kind of have to trace where these vaccines are coming from, who's involved, that Gavi, which is Bill Gates, the NIH, the CDC, all have histories with Gates and Fauci and the World Health Organization. And I'm not sure why people aren't being given the information that this week, the American Medical Association, the CDC, and of course, Facebook had to reverse and say that hydroxychloroquine does work, as we knew, because it also cures malaria. This is also why there wasn't a big spread of COVID in Africa, because most people in Africa are already on hydroxychloroquine. But, for 10 months, they said that it didn't work, while doctors all over the planet were screaming that it did. Also, there's two other drugs that also work. And this week, Merck, a US company, came out and said, on top of that they, in their research, they're going to not make a vaccine because their research shows that to get the virus, to develop the antibody is better and will cause herd immunity, like with every other cold and flu strain. And also they came out and said that and in the next cycle, if we do it that way, that it will just be another bad yearly flu cold type thing rather than what they've been selling it as. And as far as I don't know why people aren't doing their own research. It really is very clear that the Pfizer and Moderna vaccine is made by people that also believe in eugenics and depopulation. And it's all over the place if people did their own research. I've had a lot of people get in touch with me My parents are in their 80s. They're in Florida. They could have gotten it. They're going to wait and see. But, they're also not reporting that a lot of people that got the vaccine got the virus 2 weeks later or died. And which vaccines, we don't know. But I also think that Trump and the good guys who are putting out the vaccines know what's going on. And I have to believe in my heart that when the vaccines first went to the military, that they switched them out. We don't know yet. We're not going to know. But Trump got them first.
So the ones that are out now that people are taking, are they bad? Are they deadly?
I don't know if they're deadly. I hope not. But what I do think is that they're being sold as vaccines and they're not vaccines. That's what I think for sure. I think that they're intruding on people's regular cellular makeup, and they're compromising immune systems because they're putting foreign matter into your body that is coded. And that's really, to me, I think that the Moderna and Pfizer vaccines are more about surveillance, as I've told everyone a million times, but out there, people don't know. COVID really stands for Certification of Vaccine Identification. And then now they're calling it COVID ID AI. Well, that's what it is. It's a transhumanism experiment on us. And look, do I think they're deadly? I hope not. I can't imagine. Do I think that they are intrusive to the body and your natural chemistry and your natural makeup? From what I see, yeah. And, and the problem is that we're finding in our research is that when somebody is already immunocompromised, have any of the, a lot of these diseases are man-made. But if you look at people that have Lyme disease or any of the immuno diseases that affect the immune system, they should really consult more than one doctor before taking any of these vaccines that are operating systems.
Right.
Because, they are going to, if you already have an immune deficiency of some sort, it is saying on the Moderna website that it could compromise your immune system. And that's a big deal. And I don't know why the media is so complicit in hiding this information, because it's out there. And, and all you have to do really is look back through the last 8, 9, 10 years of Bill Gates talking about vaccines to see that his goal was to infiltrate the human body with some kind of data recording system, which I believe this is. And we shall see. But are they deadly? I hope not. But if you are taking certain drugs or have certain pre-existing conditions, you really need to get multiple opinions, because, they've silenced all the doctors, and there's millions of them now at this point, and scientists that aren't connected with Gates and the CDC and the World Health Organization that have said from the very start that this is not what it seems. It's really about the vaccine. It was never about the COVID or the SARS, really. So
right. I want to go back to GameStop, because you mentioned GameStop. You said that it was a big red pill. Can you please explain why it was a red pill and what is the outcome now with GameStop and how it's affected the market?
Okay. You and I think talked about once. We can do it again at some point, because a lot of people don't know this. I did a big show with Charlie about it about a year ago. Basically, the same cabal, the big cabal of the banking cabal that we know is based out of Switzerland, but has all the central banks, including the Fed. They are a private company, right? And they also own the private IRS, and they collect all that. Well, at the same time, they also own something called Seed and Company, which controls also, they own the DTCC, which is the only people that can really trade on the stock exchange. And they have it locked in very tight that they control everything, and that the American people have really been manipulated to invest in a stock market that is rigged against them. And they can trigger anything they want. They do. You have to do all the trading through the same people that run the Fed, run the banking cabal. They are the only people that can really trade on the stock exchange. Everyone has to go through them. So what I believe happened, in just my opinion, I'm not a finance guy, but I do know a lot about the Fed and the seeding company, DTCC, DCC. These are all private, including our mortgages are all owned by these people. People don't realize, and our birth certificates, but that's a whole nother story. But so anyway, I think what happened was, now there were some people that encouraged them. Dave Portnoy, who's great from Barstool Sports, I think Elon Musk, some other people were seeing what was going on Reddit. And basically they were seeing short selling has been going on for a very long time to the benefit of only the banks and to the hedge funds and to the harm of the average investor. And also during the COVID, there's been a huge influx of people doing day trading. You know, they had other jobs, so they were never able to do it before. So this Reddit page grew to millions of people. And it was basically day traders sharing information. And people started to realize what the hedge funds were about to do with some of these stocks that were undervalued and everything. So they went in at one time and did what they do and started buying up shares and buying it up and buying it up and buying it up. Well, this Robinhood that is supposed to be an app for the little guy, it was proposed. I mean, it's really supposed to be for day traders and non-professionals to help them trade. Well, there's a lot of nefarious stuff involved with this Robinhood. And in the middle of this happening, out of nowhere, completely illegally, they stopped trading. They just stopped it. And this has never happened before under any circumstance. And when this triggered and this happened, somebody had to have okayed that. Somebody in the SEC, the White House, and then we find out that Yellen is very attached to this, even that Jen Psaki, who's the press secretary, her brother works for Citadel, which is one of the hedge funds behind this. And basically, they didn't want the little guy to play their game, and they pulled the trading, and they couldn't hide it. Everyone started freaking out. And what happened was what they did was legal. There was no precedent to do such a thing. And now all these hedge funds have to pay it out, and they don't want to. So then what's triggered was an investigation to hold this up. But basically, they didn't do anything wrong. They got together, they crowdsourced, the internet, good and bad. This was an opportunity for, the little guy to play the big guy's game, and they weren't allowed. They just weren't allowed. And I think that then I started seeing what I was talking about, all these for the last, 10, 12 months about the Fed controlling the Wall Street, and the Fed being controlled by the central bankers and the small group, the Bilderberg Davos people. And you know what? And then what happened? After that happened, the mainstream media and the Democrats turned around and called these day traders domestic terrorists. So now we're at another thing where not only are the patriots now domestic terrorists and on, but now these day traders that got together and legally went and did something that the big banks do all the time to their benefit. They got stopped, and they're very aware. And they're turning it to be like, this is a Trump thing, this is that. But it is interesting that it's GameStop and their logo looks like Trump. But whatever the case may be, it exposed the fact that no, the Wall Street is not an open market. It is not for the people. It has never been. It has been manipulated from day one by the same, nefarious banking cabal that has put all our countries under debt slavery. But what it did expose is that, no, they don't want you involved. They don't want, it's not an open market. It's not. And what people also need to start realizing is that everything that's traded on the stock market, all type A stock is owned by the same cabal, is owned by the DTCC, which is owned by the Fed, which is owned by the 12 banking families. And none of the money on Wall Street is real. It's just not. You don't own anything if you own stocks. You really don't. And it's going to be exposed because, the little guy, we the people, just got a big red pill that no, the market isn't for everybody. It's only for them. And they've been pretending all this time by putting our pensions and all of our, having us invest. And, but again, I believe that Trump and Mnuchin seized it all, and that they are overseeing all of this, and that this is a giant red pill. It's just going too fast from all of Biden's executive orders that not only do we, the people, not want most of them, But a bigger pill of that is also he's putting into this COVID bill that they're passing through without any GOP support and any say of we the people. He's passing it through. Well, he wants to give 20 million illegal immigrants citizenship, first of all, in the COVID bill, when people are out of work already. So bring in more people, there will be more people out of work. It's really about flooding the zone for their final goal. And, people were up in arms a few weeks ago when they saw the original COVID bill that had $700 billion of U.S. taxpayer money going overseas. Well, this one has $900 billion going overseas while America is suffering. I mean, if you came to New York City, you would not believe it, what's going on here. They have gutted this city to the core. It is a carcass of what it was. And it's not the only one. And, this is really all towards the globalist one world agenda to make us cede our sovereignty to the UN and the CCP and the central bank. That's all one. They're all one. And, that's where we are. But, we saw big pharma exposed because of the restrictions being lifted, hydroxychloroquine being deemed okay. All of this stuff that's happened only since Biden. So that's a red pill. Then you find out all this stuff about these vaccines, and then you connect it back to Bill Gates, to the WHO, to the whole thing, to the Rockefeller lockstep. If you're paying attention, you got that. Now you have the Wall Street bankers actually stopping we the people from exercising our rights on an open market that now is clearly not open to us. And then the next step will be, I believe, the quantum financial system exposing the fraud in the Fed. And people are starting to dig into it because I think people just once their eyes are opened, as you know, for both of us, you can't go back. And then another big development that happened that I think people should take a look at, especially in our community, to see what's happening after that, is and this is off the finance topic, but it's more on the red pill topic.
Yeah.
It was announced on Sunday that the Standard Hotel is closing forever. Okay. The Standard Hotel is closing forever. The West Hollywood that has been implicated in a lot of the posts and a lot of the digging in the child trafficking and sex trafficking syndicate that we believe is very involved with Epstein Island. And also it's come out more and more that our Supreme Court Justice, John Roberts' children were also gotten from Wales, apparently, through Epstein. So it's getting more and more. Red pills are being dropped. They're being dropped, and you just have to pay attention. I really believe that Myanmar thing is a mirror for what happened here, and we're going to see it play out there as it's supposed to. You talked yesterday. I saw your show, and it was Freedom Day. It was Freedom Day, and I think that that's not an accident. And you also, I watch you because you're so smart. You did a show and you talked about the 45 days and how it hit yesterday for the EO executive order. And don't forget that it includes seizing a lot of property, assets, money, all of that. And Trump was trying to get the CCP kicked off of the stock exchange. Immediately, of course, Biden reverses that. And then this GameStop thing happens. So I think that the white hats are behind a lot of this, and true patriots and heroes are being like what they're doing to Linwood and Sidney Powell and a lot of these people is just, it's God bless them and their strength and their resolve to keep going and fighting for justice and truth. But we the people are the ones that need to see it. And I believe that that's happening every day. And I believe that it's happening on purpose. There's not a day that's gone by since he got in there that wasn't alarming to everyone.
So would you say the GameStop situation may have been a white hat operation to expose how corrupt the cabal is? Possibly.
I think like the map board, whatever you want to call it, says, how many coincidences till it's mathematically impossible? And when I saw that it was GameStop, my head goes to, this is not a game over, game theory. Do you want to play a game? GameStop. And then bam, a total veil lifted that the stock market is not for the people. It's never been. It's always been a con game against the people. And I do think that people are involved. Also, it's exposing people that Biden brought into his administration that are corrupt to the core, and that are involved in this. What are the odds that this whole situation and the Robinhood and everything, Robinhood maxed out their donations to the Biden campaign? You know, this is, and then Yellen's connected to this, Psaki's connected to this. I'm sure a lot of them, the rest of them are. And I do think that it's, how many coincidences till it's mathematically impossible includes this GameStop thing. I hope so. And I still trust that we are watching the Great Awakening in real time, and it's going at warp speed.
Yeah.
And I'm looking forward to, and I hope that it's soon, that we hear something from General Flynn and Chris Miller and some of the people behind the scenes that have seemed to kind of gone away. But I think it's on purpose. I think it's by design. It's not Trump's personality to walk away like he is. This is strategic. Absolutely. But I also think General Flynn's silence is strategic, and Chris Miller and all of them. And what I'm hearing, honestly, and I keep seeing it and keep hearing it, and then the media says the opposite. So people have to decide for themselves. But what I'm hearing is that Joe Biden has not, nor have any of his people, been allowed in the Pentagon. So, it's looking like, they are behind the awakening of people, many of these things. And then, but they're fighting back. The mainstream media is so corrupt and so against the people and so involved, in my mind, in crimes against humanity, with the fear that they instilled over basically a very bad cold, and shut down our whole world. And why? We're at a point where we have to ask why. Why? And you and I know why, and are called conspiracy theorists for it, though in the end, we're going to be called truth tellers for it, because the why is the Great Reset. And also, don't forget, right in the middle of this was Davos. And who's the only person that really stood up at Davos and said, no, we're not going to be globalists. This is ridiculous. It's 1933 Germany over there, here. And no, it was Putin. And then right after, Biden and the Democrats start their whole buildup of like, Russia's the problem. Russia's not the problem. Russia is doing what's best for Russia. And that's what Trump was trying to do for America, what's best for America. All of our governments should be doing what's best for our governments and for not our governments, for their people. They're supposed to be working for us. Well, you can tell right now, anyone involved in this Great Reset, when John Kerry went up there the other day and was saying, well, the Great Reset's going to come before we even thought, it's like, no, it's not. The rest of the world's not going to let it happen. But they're out there at Davos this week bragging about it, and putting out videos about how all of us will own nothing and we'll be happy. And, and all of this stuff. And it's just getting to a point. I even saw Russell Brand put out a video. I used to know him in Hollywood, and he's really changed a lot. But he put out a video being like, warning, the Great Reset is not good. It's not good.
So I know Arnold Schwarzenegger actually voted for Biden, which I'm really not impressed. We know what side he's on. I wanted to ask.
Don't forget who he's married to.
Yeah. But speaking of Hollywood, what are your views of Sylvester Stallone?
I've met him. He's a great guy. He's got a very nice wife and family. I'm not sure where he fits into the mix. I know that one thing that Rob, my partner, has gotten a lot of information on are who's sold their houses. It's been the people that have sold their big giant houses in Hollywood in the last, 10 months. We've seen a lot of home sales from big giant famous people. And they seem to correlate with what we're seeing from these lists of people that were supposedly involved in the bigger picture of the Epstein case. So I don't know. He just had a big sale, but apparently bought a big place in Palm Beach. I've always known of him to be a good guy. I believe he's a Republican. There was a group in Hollywood, like of quiet Republicans that were behind the scenes underground because they couldn't work, honestly, in the last 15 years if they were out and about being a conservative or even independent. You had to be a hardcore liberal to be working in Hollywood in the last 10 years. So, and note that too, a lot of people like Mel Gibson and Sylvester Stallone and other people have had to make their own movies because the Hollywood system is closed unless you're a diehard liberal Luciferian anti-God CIA lover. So I don't know. I hope the best because I know he's a nice guy and I know he has really nice children and a really nice wife. So I don't know. Schwarzenegger, he's so corrupt. He's played both sides the whole time. His wife is a flaming liberal, really over the top, and also best friends with Oprah. So, I always take into account that, she's best friends with Oprah, and that to me is not a good thing.
Well, let's see. Well, Mel, it was lovely having you on once again. It's always fantastic having you.
You're my favorite. You're my favorite truther.
You're one of my best favorites as well. You're so condensed when you speak. You don't waste time. You're always bang, bang with the facts, and I love it.
Yeah, well, we can arm ourselves with facts and truth, and they don't stand a chance. We just got to keep pushing forward. They knock us down, you and I get back up.
Absolutely.
That's what I love about you.
No, you too. Is there anything you want to say to the listeners?
No, I just want to say God wins, keep the faith. And here we go. It's another week. It's going to be a great February. Everyone stay positive, and we'll see you next week.
You too. You take care, Mel. Love you.
Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Bye.